But each time I'd get locked up, I'd have like little moments of clarity. I was locked up one time and I'm doing push-ups and working out with these younger guys and praying to a God I don't understand or don't know. And I say, God, please get me out of this situation. And my next moment I was actually in a house, an abandoned house in the basement. I was smoking meth and I had a bottle next to me and I had a moment of clarity and it was like, man, God got me out of prison for this. He got me out of lockup to be locked up into this. It like opened something up inside of me to where I recognized that maybe God was real.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I'm honored to share a powerful testimony with you. Our guest, Albert McFarland, has a story that is inspiring. Albert was raised in a challenging environment, one that ultimately shaped his path and led him down a violent and troubled road. In his youth, he became involved in criminal activities, including drug trafficking, which resulted in multiple stints in prison. However, during his most recent time behind bars, Albert experienced a serious change. He turned to the Lord for guidance, and since then, his life has completely changed. And we're going to get into all that today. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more powerful testimonies like Albert's. All right, everyone, welcome back to another testimony. Today, I got a new guest on today. Albert, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've been looking forward to being able to chat with you, man. So, I'm glad we were able to link up, and shout out to Isaiah Blancas for connecting us on this. You know him from,
Absolutely.
you know him.
Gangsters for Jesus.
Yeah. So you've connected with him along with some of the other guests that I have, came on and shared their testimonies and stuff. So he's always throwing some really good testimonies my way. So I do appreciate him a lot, and the guests that come on. So I'm really looking forward to your testimony and what God's done in your life, Albert.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of anxious to share it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
guess we can just get
yeah.
right into it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Let's go right into it. And you start where you usually start for your testimony. I don't know if you go into your early life and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Well, I usually start with my first memories were really traumatic. My brother and I watched my little brother die, and that just kind of set the tone for what was going on in life at the time. My mom was partying a lot. Um, she always had different kinds of guys over and a lot of criminal element, if you will. And they instilled in us that code, the criminal code, the prison code. My brother and I, we learned that at a really young age. But after my little brother died, things just got worse for us. I never fit in school because I wasn't the typical kid. I was a little different. I had a different way of thinking and seeing things, and I never really fit in. And so I got picked on a lot, and my older brother, the same thing. And so him and I just kind of banded together, and it was him and I versus the world when we were kids. And my mom moved us around quite a bit. I was always in trouble at school, so I got kicked out of just about every school I went to, for everything from fighting to smoking cigarettes, smoking pot, doing that kind of stuff. And I was at a really young age. I mean, I think I started smoking cigarettes and pot, like probably 7 years old. And that the violence and stuff in mine and my brother's lives came from home. I mean, my mom's friends would lock us in rooms and make us fight, and the first one to cry lost, and the winner would be able to smoke cigarettes and drink beer and partake in the rest of the stuff that was going on with the adults. And that's kind of how life was for my adolescence. It was always really tough. And so my dad, he wasn't really a part of the equation much. He was in the military, and then he was overseas, and then he came back and he got a job where he traveled, and so he was always on the road. So he didn't get a chance to really be involved in our lives. With that being said, my dad is a good person. My dad's a good dad. He set a good path for us to follow. I just chose not to follow it. Um, my mom, she was always with all these random bikers and drug dealers and stuff like that, and I kind of idolized that lifestyle. And the older I got, the more I got into it. We moved to Billings, Montana, and when we were in Billings, that's when crank or methamphetamines was a really big deal, and her husband at the time was selling it, and he didn't like me very much. He abused me pretty bad, physically, mentally, and that took a toll on me. But I still had that criminal element to me, even at such a young age. I didn't tell anybody about any of the things that were going on. I kept it all to myself. I found other outlets to use, which would have been like violence at school, drinking, smoking, whatever it was. And then, of course, it turned ugly when he went after my mom, beat her up, put her in the hospital. We got taken away. We got put in the care of the state for a while. And that started a whole nother thing. After that, my mom got us back, and it was just in and out of the system. My whole life has been like that. And my brother, he ended up going with my dad, and I stayed with my mom. And like I said, it was just, there was no rules. There was no right or wrong. It was just always do whatever you want. And if you get caught, she would stick up for me and try to get me out of all the trouble that I got myself into. But I mean, at some point, it was the law caught up with me, and so juvenile jail, group homes, boys' homes, different. Like at school, they put me in self-contained programs where I wasn't allowed to be around the general public because I was violent and I caused a bunch of trouble, and I was just not a good kid. Fast forwarding to the drugs, they put me on Ritalin. So I found out that, people took Ritalin recreationally, to say the least. So I started selling my Ritalin to some of my mom's friends and stuff like that. But being young, and I was a pretty small kid, they would try to take advantage of me and like rip me off, and I'd always end up, fighting back and getting beat up by older people and stuff like that. And but it really started getting to me to where it was like, I'm not I'm not going to let these people push me around. I'm going to start getting more ruthless and more ruthless and more ruthless. And so the violence just got out of hand. I fell into another crowd of people in Great Falls that was, they were a bunch of kids, but all you did is you go around and you just commit crimes and rob houses and do stuff like that. I just, the worst of the worst. And so I got in with those guys and got arrested for assaulting two police officers and a grand theft auto. And that kind of is when my dad stepped in. I got locked up for that. My dad stepped in. I moved in with him when I got out. He tried to, and I moved to Missoula, Montana, and he tried to instill good stuff in me. I got caught smoking pot at school. He tried to punish me, and I decided enough was enough. I ended up running away. My mom came up to Missoula to live with us, and it just got worse from there. constantly doing drugs. The drugs were getting harder at this time. We went from like crank to methamphetamines to the actual meth that we have nowadays. And I hit it hard. I got into that stuff so bad, and I was doing a lot more home invasions, a lot more violent activities. Like the violence got worse. I started stabbing people just to get whatever I could. So then my dad and my brother moved to Colorado, and I was left out in Montana pretty much by myself. And I continued to live the way I was living until it finally started catching up with me. I made a lot of enemies, and I made them really quick. Somehow the word got to my brother and my dad in Colorado, probably through one of my brother's friends, that, I was getting in all this trouble. Well, and I'd been on like a 5-day bender, and my brother shows up to my house and says that he's going to take me out to dinner. And I was like, okay. And I get in his truck, and the next thing I know, we're on our way to Colorado. So he kidnapped me, which it was good for me. Kind of got me out of that, crowd that I was with there. But it didn't change the fact that I was still me. We get to Colorado, and I picked up right where I left off. I started drinking, fighting. I was 19 at the time. I was drinking in the bars, fighting a lot in the bars, working construction. So there was drugs readily available. So it didn't really change much, other than the crowd that I was with was different than the crowd that I was with in Montana. So I continued that for a while, got in trouble in Colorado, got shipped back to Montana. But this time was going to be different. I wanted something different in my life. So I started to try to change. I was going to leave the meth alone. I was going to leave the coke alone. I wasn't going to sell anymore. I ended up coming back, still drinking a lot. I got together with the girl I was with in high school. Her and I went and got married. I was going to try to be a family man, going to try to do the right things, but it just didn't work. I still had that. I don't know. There was just something inside of me that just didn't want that life or wasn't ready for that life. And before I knew it, I was back out there selling drugs and doing the meth and neglecting my family, getting locked up all the time. And it just continued and continued. And finally, my wife at the time, she decided enough was enough, and she left me. Well, when she left me, that's like the straw that broke the camel's back. I went head first into the criminal activity. I mean, we're talking right back into the home invasions, right back into the stealing everything I could get my hands on, the violence. I would do things like tell lies about people to people that were going to tell them that I told the lie, so that way they could come and confront me and I could fight them. And I was just, it was almost like I was trying to commit suicide by somebody else's hand. I hated my life. I hated everybody. There was so much anger in me that I just couldn't contain it. But each time I'd get locked up, I'd have little moments of clarity. I remember I was locked up one time, and I'm doing push-ups and working out with these younger guys, and I'd ask God. I said, God, please, and I'm praying to a God I don't understand or don't know. And I said, God, please get me out of this situation. And my next thought, or my next moment I was actually in a house, an abandoned house in the basement. I was smoking meth, and I had a bottle next to me, and I had a moment of clarity, and it was like, man, God got me out of prison for this. He got me out of lockup to be locked up into this. And it like opened something up inside of me to where I recognized that maybe God was real. Of course, that didn't change. I'm kind of hard-headed. It didn't change the way I was conducting myself. I crawled out of that house and into my truck and continued to do the things that I was doing. Even more so, I gotten in with some really bad, I'm gonna not disclose any too much information, but with some really, really bad people. And I was running drugs for them, and it got really, really bad. I started shooting up, um, and I was traveling. I was taking drugs across state lines. I was doing more home invasions. There was some torture stuff that was going on, but it just continued to fuel my fire. The more I felt like I was a part of that, I was a part of something. And I continued to do that for, another 2 years or 2 or 3 years. And then I was with this girl, and I got her pregnant, and I was going to do the right thing and try to be there for her and the baby and stuff. And that did not last very long. I ended up leaving her when she was 8 months pregnant, and I got locked up again. Just in time I got out, I did get to see my son be born, but I squandered that time by using drugs and stuff. So I was there, but I wasn't really there. And then of course I went on run. I had a GPS monitor on one ankle and an alcohol detector on the other, because my last arrest was my second felony DUI, and I ran. And I went right back to what I did the best, and was out there causing chaos and more drugs. And I remember I was coming back from Missoula, and again I prayed to a God that I don't understand, I didn't know. And I said, God, will you please just make the chaos stop? Because I think I'd reached the end of my rope. And the next thing I know, I'm being arrested. And he answered my prayer, not the way that I had thought he was going to answer it, but he answered my prayer. And I come to, and I was in Missoula County Jail, and I was DTing really hard. The withdrawal from the alcohol and the meth was one thing, but I also had the heroin withdrawal all at once. And I don't know, something broke inside of me that that scared little boy that I was coming back out, and it was coming out, and I was terrified. And I don't know why I was terrified, because I'd been locked up before, and it wasn't nothing new. This was all just part of the same old routine, but something was different this time. And anyway, so they transferred me around from county to county, city to city, taking care of all the stuff that I had caused, and they were putting it all together in a globalized sentence. And when I was in court, they'd put it all together. But I was in Lewis and Clark County Jail, and they called for an AA meeting. And just to break up the monotony of being in jail, I said I was going to go to this meeting. And I went into the meeting, and these two guys were talking about hope and peace. And I actually got to see it in their faces. Of course, I wasn't going to, get involved in what they were talking about, but I was listening to them, and they were telling my story, and they'd never met me before. So everything that they were saying that I was getting ready to go through, they had already gone through and came out the other end of it. And they were talking about how they restored their family, they restored their jobs, they restored their standing within society, and it all came from God, and the program of AA. And so I had made a decision that day that I was done. I was going to quit drinking, and I was going to quit drugging, and I was going to give this an actual shot. Well, long story short, I get sentenced, and I got 2 years ahead of me that I'm going to be locked up. And so I took that time to actually try to learn about myself. And I went to a DUI treatment center through the Department of Corrections. And while I was in there, there was a kid that was praying out loud every night. And I kept on telling him, like, you need to stop that. I don't want to hear that. Keep that stuff to yourself. And he asked me one Sunday, he said, "Hey, do you want to go to church with me?" And they were holding a church service in the chow hall. So I said, "Yeah, I'll go with you." And I don't know why I said yeah, other than just to get out of the, monotony of being in that center. But I go to the church, and Sister Lynn had asked us to bow our heads and to think of something that we were grateful for. And this was the first time that I ever felt God's presence so overwhelmingly that it was undeniable. I bowed my head and I seen a picture of my son and my daughter, and I just started to cry. And I knew that God was there with us. And I'm in there with, hardened criminals. You don't want to show weakness in front of these people. And I was crying, but I knew that God had his hand on me. God was protecting me. So I knew it was okay to cry. And I just let it all out. And anyway, at the end of that service, we're getting ready to walk out back to our units. And the Sister Lynn, she's like, hey, don't leave without grabbing a Bible. And so she handed me this pocket-sized New Testament Bible. And every moment that I had that I was able to, I read that thing. And I didn't quite understand all of it, but I was trying and I was giving it a full effort. And so I get out. And when I get out, I think things are going to be different. I think, I got all this time under my belt now. I got this newfound thing with God. Things are going to be different. Well, I get out and I get released to my mom's house instead of a pre-release. And when I get there, I think things are going to be different on her end too. Well, just because I changed doesn't mean that she did. Everybody in the house was drinking, doing drugs, smoking pot. There was meth being sold out of the basement. And here I am trying to live this newfound life in a pit of hell. And so I turned my bedroom window into my front door, and I went in and out of that instead of having to go through the front door of that place. And somehow I managed in like 30 days to get out of that house. I landed myself a good job. I started doing the right things. But the coolest thing about all that is when I got out, I went to an AA meeting, and the first two people I seen were the two guys that brought the AA meeting into the jail. And I just knew that God had put those people in my life for a reason. And so I don't know, I continued to try to do the right things. But it was hard. It was, I felt alone a lot because I didn't have any friends. The woman that I was with, she didn't understand what I was going through. She thought it was just another act or a game, and it wasn't. I was really trying to change. So her and I ended up splitting up. I was on my own. I ended up getting into an equipment accident. I ended up breaking my shoulder, collarbone, and ribs and stuff. And at that moment, it was like, so I was weak, I was broken, I was alone. And then God came to me again. And God kept on showing up in my life. And he showed me Set Free Ministries. And so I started going to Set Free, and the two guys that brought the AA meeting into the jail and the two guys that were at the AA meet, my first AA meeting, were also in the church. And so I knew that was where I needed to be at. And so I started going to Set Free, and I'm not used to people welcoming me the way that they did. I got a bunch of tattoos. I'm kind of rough around the edges. But when I walked in, they all hugged me and they all were like, we're glad to see you here. I didn't get that kind of vibe from other churches that I'd went to. Most of the time it was like, okay, we're glad you're here. You can sit in the back. These guys weren't like that. They were different. they accepted me for who I was at that moment, not for what I've done, but for who I was that day and what I could be. And that message stuck with me. And, I continue to try to live up to that. Um, and so, life continues on. And today, I live a pretty good life. I have a good job. Still a active member in the church. They had made me a deacon of the church, and I'm in pastor training right now. Just things that you would have never guessed a guy like me would be doing, or and I have a totally different passion now in life than I did before. My passion, instead of hurting people, I want to help as many people as I can get out of the hopeless state of mind that I found myself in when God found me. Because I was at the end of my rope. I was ready for death of some sort, whether it be suicide or homicide or whatever. I was just tired of being on this planet and on Earth. I just wanted to die, and now I have something to live for. God's shown me another way, and today I have that good job. I have a great wife who I met in church. I got to meet Isaiah, which was
Mhm.
cool. Him and I met at an event where we were trying to get out and help people.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's God has stepped into my life, and he's totally changed everything about me. Uh,
Yeah.
the way I look at people, the way I conduct myself, it's all because God has changed who I am.
Yeah. I mean, it's really incredible, Albert, how you grew up and you went through what you went through. I mean, you said like how the environment that you grew up in and just the stuff that was around, like the drugs, the alcohol, and then the fighting, the violence, and then obviously like it led into it formed you into just having this hatred and growing up and just becoming real violent and just going down this path. And like you said, your dad tried to help you out, but you're already at that point to where you were, I guess, kind of maybe deep into that mindset to where you were maybe stuck in your ways or angry with your ways. And then you just continued down that path. But you know you gained perspective from it and you continued to we're not making excuses, right? You went down the path you chose, and so like you said, you went through what you went through, and now you have compassion for people that have went down the same path that you had went through, because you talked about the guys that were in that AA meeting as well, like the two
Yeah.
guys. I mean, it was all meant to be, for them to be in there, and now you get to do that for people, because some
Hmm.
people have to go down the same path that you went through, because they have some people trying to, support systems that try to help them get out of that life. But, they sometimes are hard headed and it's just hard to get them out, in some situations. So people plant seeds and hopefully eventually they get out. But, it's nice to, try to help people out. Like you said, like when you and Isaiah are doing now, and, doing outreaches and doing things like this, because if someone can, minister and try to talk to someone before they go too far gone and say, hey, look, I've been there, I've done that. You don't want to go down that path like I did, but if they
Right.
still choose to, it's hard to, but at least you planted some kind of seeds, and you move forward. But I mean, what is your main passion today on when you try to help people?
Today it's mainly just trying to make them aware that there's other ways. There's other ways to deal with things. It doesn't always have to be, a violent situation, or there's ways to de-escalate situations. We don't always have to turn back to drugs. We can pick up a phone and talk to somebody. God is the ultimate answer in all of it. And I pray that I get to be the instrument that gets to lead people to God. Um, because essentially that's what saved me. I didn't know of anything else. I didn't know about God. I didn't know about being able to go to an AA meeting or connect with somebody like that, or even, know that other people had experienced the same things that I had experienced. Growing up, I was a throwaway kid. Nobody wanted me. And a lot of people continue feeling that way in life. And I'd like to be the person that shows them that they're worth something more, you know?
Yeah, because there, like you said, there is that that disconnect, right? And like you said, they're just treated as a throwaway kid, and no one wants to go and try to reach them, and
Yeah.
that's where it becomes a lost cause, or they feel as if they're a lost cause, right? And then,
Mhm.
like you said, if you're there to be able to say, "Hey, I've been there, I've done that, but there's another way," and you try to help them connect with, read their Bible and show them different activities, or you know what I mean, like that's a really great thing to do. That's one of the best things to do. And
Well, and right now, I'm with Set Free Ministries, and we have the motorcycle club is Servants for Christ, and basically we can show 1% guys, that are in motorcycle clubs, that there's other clubs out there that doesn't have to be, criminal or anything like that. You can go and ride with people that are like-minded, and not go to the bars, and not, you know, use drugs, but just to go ride to ride. And that's also a good thing too. That's a good resource that we get to use, kind of like Gangsters for Jesus with the church in the alley. We get to go to where these people are. They don't have to come to us. We can go to them and show them that we still have lives, and we get to ride our motorcycles, and we get to do the things that we love to do, but we don't have to drink and drug, and we don't have to do any of that stuff. No criminal activity. And still get to ride our motorcycles, and we love God, and we share that openly with everybody. And um, it's that's a good resource as well.
yeah, I know. I think I've seen some of those videos and stuff on YouTube of those ministries and stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool because I've never seen any before, and then I was like, wow, I thought that was really interesting and cool because they're, like you said, the hardcore, biker looking kind of guys, but they had a
Mhm.
really heart for God, and that was really cool because they were really about it, and these guys were supporting and just really looked like they cared for each other, and it seemed like a really cool ministry and stuff, man. And I mean, that's seemed like it was something to be really cool and a part of because certain people you have to connect and find your place, as a church to where you fit in, and
Mhm.
to be able to connect and find your people, and where you're gonna worship and follow the Lord at.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the other cool things is we have such a diverse group of people that we ride with. I mean, we ride with military, we ride with convicts. I mean, we all have a story. We all have a past, but we don't let that dictate our present or our future. We live in the moment for today. For the ride today,
Hmm.
and that's a great way to live. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Well, Albert, I really appreciate you sharing your testimony today, man. It's been really wonderful hearing it and what God's done in your life, and I pray that you continue to just go down this path, man, and really help others and inspire others by hearing your testimony. And I think that you're going to continue to do good things, God willing, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I hope you can do the same. I know that you're expanding, and we've been watching a lot of your videos and stuff, man. And you're a great instrument for God, that's for sure. You keep doing a good job, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you want to pray us out? Pray for the people
Absolutely.
that are struggling with addiction or prison, or people going through situations right now.
Absolutely. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come before you now, and we just pray for all of our brothers and sisters that are incarcerated right now, Father. And we just pray that you shine a light onto them and into their hearts, Father, and let them know that they are not alone in that place, Father. And we just pray that in that dark place, you shine that light on them, And we also pray for all of our brothers and sisters out there that are still battling with the spirit of addiction, Father. And we just pray that you break that from them, Father, in a mighty way, and that you just show up in their lives and you make it undeniable, Father, that you are the ultimate healer in everything, Father. And we just thank you for our brother Adrian, and we just lift this up to you, Father, and your message in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Albert.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Albert's testimony is truly one to remember. For many individuals who grew up in homes filled with chaos, Albert's story will resonate deeply. Choosing a path that leads to destruction is not everyone's first choice. However, without the Lord in our lives, this path often becomes more common than we realize. Please feel free to comment any takeaways that you got from this testimony. Share this testimony with anyone that you think needs to hear it, or just with someone that you think will really enjoy it. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Be sure to click the notification button and the subscribe button to continue to get more testimonies like this. At the end of this video, a playlist will pop up called the Testimony Playlist, and on there you can see all the other testimonies I got to record in the past. Thank you again so much for watching, and of course, we'll see everyone on the next one.